Even the organizations that I go into, they want me to teach them about authenticity, not old school media training where it was, you have to be polished and perfect. It's about teaching people to just speak in their own voice, and that is okay.
Welcome to Reclaim Your Voice, the podcast for business owners who are ready to be heard, speak on stages and podcasts, and to become genuinely known for what they do. I'm Savannah Madden, confidence and speaking coach for founder-led businesses, and I help you find your voice, own your expertise, and speak in a way that attracts the right clients and opens the right doors. Here we talk about finding your voice, building the confidence to share your message, and doing the real work that gets you recognised by the people you're meant to serve. If you've got something important to say and you want the world to actually hear it, you're in the right place. This is Reclaim Your Voice. Hello and welcome back to Reclaim Your Voice. Today, I feel like two worlds are aligning in perfect harmony because I am speaking to someone who is a media trainer and communication coach who helps female founders and organisations speak with confidence, clarity, and conviction in media interviews. So I'm feeling like this is very on brand right now. So I would love to introduce Sarah Collins. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Savannah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's absolutely lovely to have you. So I like to get stuck in straight away. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself in your own words and about what you do and who you work with?
So my background is in television production. I spent over 20 years at ITV Daytime and also ITN. So that was working on the shows that people might know, Good Morning Britain, Lorraine, This Morning, and Loose Women. And then at ITN, I was helping create video content for brands and businesses. And I kept seeing this gap. So we would be able to train spokespeople and experts in the studio for a short amount of time, but there was a lot of work that needed to go a bit deeper. And we didn't have, as producers, time to really go into that depth. I qualified as a coach whilst I was at ITN and was in a situation where I felt that I really wanted to start my own business, and it wanted to be around media training and coaching because I loved my job in TV. It wasn't that I hated that and I needed to take a step away. I really, really enjoyed it. But I just saw that there was this gap where I could help support people to really be their best version of themselves in media interviews. And that's where my business began.
What a journey. And I'm sure loads of people will be like, oh, yes, This Morning, Lorraine, yeah, still watching that on my TV. Yes, so that is such an amazing journey to have gone on. So what was it like day to day, and what did you love most about working with all the different people that you were coaching in that kind of producer role, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so people always used to ask me kind of what does a producer do? And essentially the producer takes the kind of initial idea through to conception, so through to delivery. So what you see on the TV screen, there will be a producer behind that, really kind of taking it from those early stages right through to what you see on screen. And that could have meant speaking to contributors, so just kind of everyday people who are sharing their stories on national TV, which, is quite a daunting thing, but also it could be working with talent, so maybe celebrities in some way, or it was bringing in experts to talk about different topics. There was a real variety of people, of subjects. No day was the same. That's all I can say, really.
I bet. And so what was the thing that really pushed you then to start your own business and to work with other organisations and female founders with their communication and confidence?
Well, as I said, I saw this gap. We were inviting CEOs, experts, contributors into the studio, and you only had a certain amount of time that you could work with them. And unless they had media training prior to that, there were a lot of fears and doubts going on that meant that when the camera was turned on, people would either be grabbing a script and kind of wishing for the best, or they would just crumble under that pressure. They didn't have the techniques to be able to manage those nerves. They didn't understand actually really what to say to come across as that credible expert or spokesperson. And during COVID, I had a bit of a wobble, probably like everybody did. And I just wondered what the future really held for me, because I knew at that point that TV work, I'm not sure how much longevity there was in it. I was a mum to 2 small children. And TV work is either 150% or nothing. You know, you're either all in, you're there all day, every day, or you don't have any work as a freelancer and there's nothing in between. So it was increasingly becoming quite difficult to manage with family life as well. And I worked with a career coach, and coaching kind of came out on top. And so I did a qualification whilst I was working at ITM, and I loved it. It was transformational for me as a person. My communication completely changed, and I just saw this gap and I thought, wow, blending the media training with the coaching and actually being able to go that level deeper has such a huge effect on how a person communicates. So that's really the inspiration behind my business and what I just love to do day to day now.
What amazing things to blend together. You know, you've got all these skills, you've then done your coaching qualification, put them all together, and then you can go out there and serve so many people so that they can share their expertise in a way that is really clear, coherent, and they feel really good doing it as well, because that's one of the biggest problems, isn't it? That people lack so much confidence when they have to share their expertise in front of an audience, whether that's in front of the camera or just a small group of people to then, you know, bigger audiences. It's just really interesting, isn't it? So have you ever had any confidence wobbles yourself that you've had to overcome, or have you ever felt like you didn't have a voice anywhere in growing up or in your career?
Yeah, so I've had a really interesting experience in that when I was younger, I wasn't taught the skills. I wasn't around people that could share how I should be using my voice. So I tended to kind of keep small and quiet and not really say a lot. I was very shy at school. You know, when the teacher asked, who wants to read out loud, I would just be kind of head down, do not look at me, don't pick me. I just I didn't have that confidence. And I somehow managed to go into an industry that had a lot of big personalities. And I mean, it was really overwhelming at first. I was so grateful because obviously I did film, TV and drama at university, and to actually go into TV. So GMTV, for anybody that remembers it, was like my first job. So to be going into that was incredible. But my goodness, it was like a lesson in, okay, I need to speak up here because otherwise I am going to get absolutely lost, swallowed. No one's going to know who I am. And I did this really funny thing in the early days of my career, which was we'd have kind of the editors, you'd be in the newsroom, and I was a program assistant. So I was going around kind of getting props for people, delivering the papers, doing the coffees, all those jobs that you have to do when you first start out. And I would go up to the editors and I would just, even if I'd been there for 6 months, I'd assume they just wouldn't know who I was. So I would say, oh, I'm Sarah and blah, blah, blah. And, would you like a coffee, or here's your paper? And one editor turned around to me at one point and he said, I know who you are. You don't need to introduce yourself to me. I know who you are. And it was one of those moments where I felt like, wow, someone's actually really recognized and just knows who I am. And I don't know, I think that was a real turning point for me. And I started to use my voice a bit more from there on in.
I was just going to say, was that the sort of shift for you? Was that a bit of a turning point where you sort of felt like, hey, hang on a minute. No, people do know who I am. My voice does have power. So yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? That in so many environments, there are so many different dynamics. And sometimes we feel like we fit into one of those categories, as it were. But actually, because of you were doing all those really lovely jobs that are just so great when you're trying to do your job, someone making you a coffee, making sure you got your paper, like nice people really value that, don't they? So I can imagine that actually all of those smaller jobs that you had at first really made such a big difference, and it's obviously really helped with improving your confidence early on in your career. So With the women that you work with now who, want to show up in the media, what would you say is the most common thing that is holding them back?
Do you know what? One of the biggest things is I don't know what to say, because I think when you
Ah,
know what you need to say, that's when the confidence comes. It's when the clarity comes. And those kind of two pieces, if you don't have those, then, for example, you'll kind of open social media and just not know what to do or say. So actually, one of the things that I do at the very start is to gain clarity on kind of what their messages are, what their story is. It's very much tapping into those media insights. So, when I was working at ITV, when I was working at ITN, you'd have some big organizations that would come to you and they'd really want to, get across these amazing videos to share with their audiences. And the key things that you would work on with them, which is what I work on with my clients now, is okay, what's the overall kind of mission of why you're doing this? What are your kind of 3 to 4 key messages that you want to portray? And what's the story behind those that's going to support actually what you're saying? And I said about moving away from TV, but I love those elements of it. So when I first started my business, I wasn't sure what route I was going to go down actually. And I used to turn up at networking events, quite nervous. And I would just say what I did. And the amount of people that came over and said to me, oh, I've got an interview coming up, or, I want to be on a podcast. Can you help me with that? And I thought, oh, wow, there's something in this. So instead of kind of pushing the media stuff away, I was like, okay, no, I need to bring these skills into what I'm doing now. And that is having those foundations of the key messages, the mission, the story. If you don't have those, you have no idea what to say. And then, how are you going to turn up and be on screen and be that really confident, kind of credible person when actually not knowing what to say is holding you back?
and having that structure as well, so that as you say, you've just sort of broken it down into your mission and then your key points, and also like what's your ultimate goal, what is the thing that you're striving for, why do you want to share your message, is something that I always think about people who are going to be going onto podcasts like this, or sharing their message on stage, or hosting a webinar or something. Like, what's the goal, what do you want people to walk away with afterwards? That's a really important one. You said that you have used so many things from your media career in with helping people be seen as experts and authorities in their space. So how do you help someone find that version of their voice when they've never really owned it before, once they've realised what it is that they want to say?
So I think what's important to reference there is that although I was finding my voice in those big organizations that I worked at, I actually really shied away from being on camera. So I wouldn't be on camera for the best part of 20 years. I remember somebody even asking you to do a message for someone who was leaving. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. So I feel like I've followed that path that I now support my clients through, because essentially the act of doing the coaching qualification and then also building my own business and having to be the face of my brand. I'm now a podcast host myself, and doing all these things where I've had to put myself on camera. I've had to learn to, just be ready and go and manage my nerves in the moment. And so that's the sort of thing that I now help and guide my clients through. I think one of the biggest things is managing those nerves, but also actually just having the confidence to go, okay, I know what I'm doing. Let's just go for it. and understanding that no interview, whether you're on TV, radio, podcast, we're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for absolute perfection. We want you to be yourself. And actually, so many people don't know what that looks like. Like, what is being me? What does that look like? So actually understanding that in the first instance is really, really important.
It sure is, because I think particularly in the world we're living in now, with all the social media, there's so much work that happens on camera, because I'm sure when you started off in your career before social media was even invented, you had cameras filming the TV shows, but there weren't people then on their phones filming for content or whatever, so there wasn't that part to manage. Whereas now, we use screens for almost everything. I mean, we're using one right now. We're predominantly recording this for audio purposes, but we've also got a visual as well. So it's just everywhere, isn't it? It's just part of our lives now, isn't it? Being on camera. And I think there is so much value in saying you've got a really good message to share. You have got so many expertise. You have just got to get on with it. Have you ever come up against any resistance from anybody where you've had to maybe dig a little bit deeper and rely on other strategies or tools to help them with their camera confidence?
Not that I can think of, but I worked with someone last year. It was really interesting because just how someone portrays themselves. So she came to me and she said, "Look, I'm confident already. I know kind of what I'm doing. I just need to know how to be on podcasts and media interviews." And so it's more the media training that she was after. And so I thought, okay, this is great. We'll kind of skip the first part, the bit about kind of raising self-awareness, the building the confidence, making sure you've got all the tools there so that you can be your most confident self. And we skipped that and went straight to kind of media training and the messaging and all of those different things I've spoken about. And it wasn't until close to the end where I just kept hearing these thoughts come up and I was like, oh no, we've now got to go back, because I think everybody, every single one of us gets nervous in these situations. I think it would be wrong for someone to say that they don't. So, tackling that and kind of overcoming that is so important. And you mentioned there about, we didn't have podcasts when we were growing up. I mean, I'm assuming you're a similar age to me. You might not.
I'm getting the same vibe, Sarah. Yes.
We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have social media. We didn't even have networking for women.
No.
And actually and I feel so passionate about our generation of women who are coming through now, and we don't have any of these skills, and yet we want to build and grow our own businesses, and we want to be successful, and we need to be the face of the brand, but we don't have any of the tools to be able to do that.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so passionate about this as well, because I've got a theatre school that I have grown and scaled, and we've got an amazing team in place taking care of all of the sort of day-to-day stuff with the actual coaching, using a lot of my mechanisms and mentoring and things. So we're equipping loads of these young people with all these incredible skills so that when they are growing up into adults, they're going to have them. And that's why I wanted to make the transition into working with adults, which is so, I think, aligned with what you're saying, because so many of us did not get these skills as a child. I mean, I was very lucky that I did, purely because I did performing arts, but that's not everybody's experience. And even if people did do performing arts as a child, they might not have had the same experience as I did. So it's obviously very unique and nuanced per person, but it's just a travesty, isn't it, that there are so many adults, but particularly women. I think, we're kind of, quite aligned in that sense as well, that, we've sort of trained to stay a bit smaller, stay a bit quieter, not speak up quite as much. But we've got some things to say.
I know. I mean, that's why we're so aligned with what we do, isn't it? I've got
Exactly.
my podcast, Speaks to Scales, very much along those lines as well. And, it's just, we need to speak up. We need to say what we want. I mean, I feel like I spent so many years hiding my opinions, not saying anything. I worked for big organizations where, you could have an opinion, but you knew it wasn't really going to make much of a difference. And I wanted to make a difference. And I know that so many women I speak to, they also just want to make a difference. They want to help other women. And we can only do that if we speak up and use our voices. So I also have guests on my podcast. I know you're coming on soon as well. And we just need to provide as many spaces as possible, don't we, for women of our generation to be able to speak up, to be able to say how they feel, what they want even. And that space is so important.
It really is. It really, really is. And the other thing that I was just thinking about, sort of going back to part of our conversation we were having earlier about the fact that we have social media now and so much of our lives are on screen, and this kind of like everything having to be perfect as well. Like no one is really buying into that kind of aesthetic anymore. Everybody is buying into you because you're real and they trust you, building, your like trust factor and all of that, because people want to work with someone where they feel really safe and secure, and that there's someone that they trust and that they feel really comfortable with, maybe opening up and being a little bit more vulnerable than they perhaps have been in the past, to get these incredible expertise, to get these fantastic stories. But again, we've kind of been conditioned to be really perfect and look a certain way and sound a certain way and speak a certain way. So even if you feel like you are using your voice, perhaps some people aren't always using it as authentically as they want to. And I think that's another thing that we're very aligned with, is that you don't have to fake confidence. You don't have to fake conviction. You don't have to fake your communication, because we've got the tools to share with people to enable them to be able to be naturally confident. 'Cause we've all got it somewhere inside us. We just need to bring it out more, don't we? So I'd love to know, have you got any sort of clients that you've got in your mind that you're like, oh yeah, that was a real, I want to say the word success, but but like a success story, somebody that came to you that really just didn't quite know like how to get to whatever their goal was, and you took them on that journey.
Yeah, I've got a lovely story. And actually I just wanted to pick up and say, do you know, even the organizations that I go into, they want me to teach them about authenticity, because it's not old school media training where it was, you have to be polished and perfect and everything has to be right. It's about teaching people to just speak in their own voice, and that is okay. One of my clients that I worked with last year, amazing client, and she came to me because she was going to networking events and just didn't know what to say. It's that classic, I don't know what to say. And so we worked on her messaging, her story, just how she was introducing herself is another big thing that people really struggle with.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. And we went through all of that. We did the media training. I do kind of practice podcast interviews and practice TV interviews with them. And a lot of the stuff with her was mindset as well. So that was a big piece of working with her. But actually, it's been amazing because she went on to not only, go to several networking events and be really comfortable with talking about her story. It was a particularly vulnerable story. But also she went on to go on to podcast interviews. She's launched her own podcast. She has gone on to speak at events. She's recently been speaking in Parliament. I caught up with her recently. I know. And I was like, this is unbelievable. She had this really lovely way of describing it, which was like a snake shedding its skin. So when she finished working with me, I sent her this card with a picture of a snake and the skin on the side, as if it was shedding the skin, because she's just a completely different person now. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, in the Chinese, astrology calendar, last year was the year of the snake, and it was all about that snake skin shedding, and then moving into this lunar year, or however you describe it. And now we're in the year of the fire horse, and that's why everyone's like on turbocharge, like going full steam ahead, let's go. Probably why you launched your podcast this year, Sarah, and why I relaunched mine, because we're in full throttle mode.
I am in full turbo mode this year. I don't know what is in the air for 2026.
That's what it is. It's the year of the fire horse.
I know, and I can't quite believe it's only May as well, because so much has happened already. Yeah, exactly.
Exciting. Amazing. So, as you know, the title of this podcast is Reclaim Your Voice. So, Sarah, I'd love to ask you, what does reclaiming your voice look like to you?
Just in my experience, it's really having that belief and trust in myself. And that is not something that's happened overnight. That is a compound of several different things, a lot of inner work, a lot of getting support from other people. So from other coaches, from just business coaches, etc., where I've felt like I've needed support, and just being comfortable with showing up as me, and not someone that I think I should have been. I started my Instagram account, my business Instagram account, I think it was September 2024, just after I left ITM. And I was being very professional and very, just polished. And this is how I think I should be showing up. And then around about this time last year, I was working with a coach and I just thought, I just need to start being authentic. I need to start reclaiming my voice back and actually just being me, and just the action of doing it. The confidence comes after you take the action, not before. And so just the continual consistency of showing up online, showing my face, speaking to camera really helped me just gain that voice. I think the voice that I'd always wanted that was never quite there.
Exactly, because you reclaimed it from within. It was there inside you. You just have now found the power and the confidence and the pathway to really unleash it, I think. It's just so amazing to hear how you've progressed through this wonderful first part of your career, and now you're in the second part of your career, and who knows what might come in the future as well, how you might evolve even further. So this has been such an amazing and rich conversation. But before we kind of start wrapping things up, Sarah, I'd love to know, how can people who are listening, how can we come and find you? How can we connect with you? And is there anything that you can offer us as well?
So I can be found on Instagram, Sarah_Collins _coach consultant, on LinkedIn under my name as well. And then sarahcollinscoaching.com is my website. I do have a free 5-minute camera confidence audio, which I can share with you. So that's for, if you're about to appear on camera, whether it's an interview or social media post, listening to that and just giving you the tools to be able to go for it.
Amazing. And can we come and listen to your podcast as well?
Yes. So my podcast is She Speaks to Scale. It's a fairly new podcast. I only launched it in the middle of April, but I'm now 8 episodes in, guest episodes and solo episodes, all around kind of bringing my media insights and the expertise from myself, but also other people in speaking space for that generation of women in business that need those skills now more than ever.
Excellent. And can we listen to that wherever we get our podcasts?
Yes, Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Incredible. We will check it out. And I'll link all of that up in the show notes. But thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Savannah.
Thank you so much for being here and for listening to this episode of Reclaim Your Voice. If today's conversation resonated, head to the show notes where you'll find my free audio gifts. And if this episode helped you in any way, it would mean so much if you shared it, rated or reviewed the show. That support helps these conversations reach the people who really need them. You can also watch the full episode over on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next one.